Well, good evening, freedom seekers. I'm very excited to be here. I've got a special guest that I'm going to have with me tonight, just to kind of give you a little treat. I'll start out by, and if you saw the thumbnail video, show you a little bit about the treat that I've got here set up for you by going to another screen. So just a moment while I can share a screen here. And it looks like, because this is all new that we are doing, oh, that's right, here we go. Well, then we're going to go, and I hit the wrong button, but that's okay. And so you see my partner, Kat, there now, but I'm going to go ahead and introduce her in just a moment, and I am going to hit the right button now so I can go ahead and share the item that I wanted to share with you. And let me see if that's going to open up here. Just a moment. It may not, because it's a different kind of a file. And so it could be that it's not going to let me share that with you. And that's what it looks like. And so you'll just have to miss out on that treat. And because it was basically a blow up of the photograph that's in the thumbnail. And that is of myself and my beautiful partner standing naked. And where was that photograph taken?
We were in Joshua Tree. That was back in February, end of February, beginning of March.
Yeah.
That was from our first trip. That was like 2 years ago.
That's right. That's right. You're right. And
that was a couple years ago.
The photograph 3 years ago. My gosh, yes. Now the photograph looks like we were naked in that picture. Were we really naked?
Yeah, we were.
That's right. We had taken all of our clothes off and had a very nice time having sex. And
we did.
Actually, it wasn't Joshua Tree. It was an oasis that is just outside of the national park. What's the name of that oasis? Do you remember?
That was 29 Palms.
Yeah, 29 Palms.
Yeah.
And do you remember how far we hiked in to the oasis?
It was only about 4 miles, 3 or 4 miles. It wasn't very far.
It wasn't very far. And so, but it's a little bit of a hike. And it was a very nice hike. And so hike in 3 or 4 miles, and this is just dry, arid land. And that's the beautiful thing about oases out in this part of the country is that you'll be hiking out there in just, dry desert type area. And then you'll come to this beautiful place that has got these gorgeous palm trees lining all around it. There's usually either a spring or a pond or a small lake, some body of water that then is on the inside of all these palm trees that surround it on the outside. And it's a watering hole for all the local animals. And so we were at 29 Palms. We took the hike into the oasis about 3 to 4 miles, and we got ourselves naked and had some sex. And so that was the photograph. That's the thumbnail on this. And we're going to be talking, because we're going to be talking about tonight about the idea of a home nudist, because there's so many people that are home now. And, I know that myself, I love being naked at home, and I just wish it was warm, a little more warm than it is even right now. It's been the 60s this week here in Ventura, and then we live in a shared household where nobody else joins my nakedness, and so I'm a little bit respectful. They've all seen me naked in the household, but I'm a little respectful of everybody else in the household, so that I'm not naked nearly as much as I like to be. And but yeah, the home nudist is, I can only imagine that there's a lot of people out there right now that are home being naked a lot more now. And I know I've dated over the last 13 years of my non-monogamous life. I've dated multiple people that love being naked. These are women that as soon as they get home from work and they hit the door, the first thing that they do is they strip all their clothes off, and they enjoy spending all their time at home naked. Now, as people join us here today, then go ahead and let us know, where you're from. So just say hi in the chat box, and give us a shout. Let us know where you're from. Also, as we go along here, if you have any questions, feel free to ask any questions you have in the chat. We won't answer the questions right away. We're going to get back to them at the very end, and so that way we can get through our material as quickly as possible. But we will be happy to go ahead and answer any of your questions. And it's always fun to have my sexy, beautiful, wonderful partner, in which she just had a birthday last week, and and so she's like she looks at least 10 years younger than what she is, and that's just at least I think she does. If you want to take a shot at guessing and putting in the chat box how what you think her age is, and then I'll tell you if you're right or not. And I wish I could have a naked picture of you to send them to if anybody got it right. Huh?
Me too.
Only if they got it right, though, right?
There you go. Only if they get it right. Yes.
Now, we certainly are not shy about letting people see you naked, are we?
No.
So I guess it looks like she started to blush a little bit. That's kind of fun.
I always blush. Always blush.
And so we are actually testing something out new here tonight, and I'm going to get started with the weekly update and review here in a moment. But what we're testing out new is that Kat, my beautiful partner, is actually just right downstairs. I'm upstairs, and so we're testing out this process of which is not a new feature of the program that we use, but it is just one that we've never used before. But I'm heading to Seattle within the next week, and I'm going to be there probably for about 2 months. And so while I'm there, I would love to be able to take and make some videos with my beautiful partner, and so we're trying this feature out, and that way we can. It looks like there we go. It looks like that we had to get the whole internet caught up in a moment. It spun around on me a little bit. So let's go ahead and get started here. Welcome. And again, let us know where you're from. And if you have any questions, feel free to put those in the chat. I'm going to come over here and share my screen and go to a document that I like to go through because that keeps me on track. Otherwise, instead of being 45 minutes to an hour, and I know Kat, she likes to stick with about 45 minutes with me on this. And so I'm going to try to make sure that I stay on point. And then otherwise, if I don't use my notes, then what happens is I can get really long-winded and get off track and go all kinds of places. So here we go. We're going to go to that. Used in previous as well, but a quickly wrap-up video. We are to help life, choosing life that we tell you that you should live, but the life that you would desire to live the most. What would make you be able to wake up in the morning and say, God, I love my life? And that's what we want to help you to create. And it certainly is something that Kat and I have worked to create, and we've been pretty successful at creating that. And where you wake up in the morning, love your life, and you just keep wanting more of it. And so we keep creating more and new things. And so I ask you then in the process here, I ask you to go ahead and take a chance. I don't know where, in fact, if you want to put in the chat box where you're at in your journey. Are you currently living a monogamous life but want to live a non-monogamous life? Or are you already living a non-monogamous life? And if you're living a non-monogamous life, is that an ethical and consensual non-monogamous life, or is it an unethical and non-consensual non-monogamous life? That's for people that cheat, or I don't want to. I hope I'm not speaking to any rapists out there, but that rapists would fit in that category as well as being unethical and unconsensual non-monogamous, and cheaters fit into that category as well. But we want to help people to transition into living a life of their dreams, having more sex with more people more often, but to do it ethically and consensually in a non-monogamous relationships. And so we're here to help you, and we want to help you to have more satisfaction and more pleasure in your life. And you do that by having more sex and more relationships. And that's what Kat and I, every day, we spend our lives helping people to have more sex and more relationships. Now, how do we do that is the question then. And so we do it through our teaching, through our training, our coaching, and the events that we produce. And right now, of course, all of our events are produced online. They're virtual events. But once this COVID virus, which is going to be about 2 years, if you've been listening to me, you've heard me say that before, it's going to take 2 years before we're really behind this thing. And until then, we're not doing any live events. I think that people that go and do any live events, like go to sex parties or anything like that, they are just putting lives in people's lives at jeopardy. And so we don't support any of that. We support people being as smart as they are right now. And so through our teaching and our training, our coaching, and our events, though, we have a 3-step process that we do. And I keep talking about this process that we use, and that is reframing, transforming, and liberating. And so we're going to first talk tonight. And so in the weekly review video, I talked to you about how I myself have gone from, I've gone through from a 27-year monogamous life. And Kat, were you monogamous in your prior life at all?
I was monogamous until 7 years ago, when I finally ended my 25-year monogamous marriage relationship and rediscovered that I was ethically and consensually non-monogamous.
And so, yeah, because back in when you started your sex life, when you were pretty young, I mean, a teenager, I mean, it wasn't like 10 years old or anything like that, but you were a teenager and 16, okay, when you began your sex life, your life of having sex actively with other people, and you had a boyfriend and a girlfriend at that time, and you were ethically and consensual. Because they both knew about each other, but you didn't even know that there was really such a thing, really.
No, I didn't have any language for it. I didn't have any labels for it. I just was doing what came very natural for me. And for me as a bisexual woman, having a male partner and a female partner, again, it's like I didn't even recognize that I was dating this girl. But when I look back on it, I really was. I would get all dressed up and I'd be really excited, and we would go out on dates, and we'd have sex. Sometimes in my car, sometimes at her dad's place, any place that we could kind of make it happen. And I was very open and honest with my boyfriend about it. And he was like, that's cool. Just have fun.
And so then you broke up with your boyfriend and you went off to college. And in college, you were having yourself quite a party.
I had quite a party. That's where I had my first group experience, couple swapping. So we had, I was seeing somebody and they suggested to do some swaps. So I did that, and that was really fun, and played around with the girl as well and had a good old time. Slutted it up.
So then you met a guy at the end of your first year of college, and he kind of put the kibosh on all of that, and you end up marrying him. And for 25 years, then you lived in monogamy.
I did. And yeah, that didn't seem to suit me very well.
And so, one of the things then that Kat and I talk about all the time is how monogamous thinking creeps into non-monogamous the lives of non-monogamous people.
Mhm.
People just simply don't know any better or any different. And so Kat is here to help me today with a discussion that I want to have. And it's really started last night. We saw and watched a movie called Frida, and it was on Netflix. And so Kat, just tell a little bit, just introduce the movie a little bit.
Sure. It's called Frida. It's about the life of Frida Kahlo. She was a Mexican artist in the 1920s, 30s, 40s, into the 50s. And she lived a very interesting life. She was bisexual. She was non-monogamous. And even though she married, they tried to have an understanding about having sex outside of their marriage and their relationship, but they really struggled with it, even though it was something that they recognized they weren't going to be fidelis in their sexual exploration, but they still really, really struggled with jealousy and possessiveness, and in the end they really couldn't even figure out how to deal with it.
They were definitely a couple that had a deep level of chemistry and spark and love. He had been married two times. He was married two times before her and had sex with just a lot of women, and she had sex with other guys as well. But the thing is that when they and she had sex with women as well. That's right. And so the thing is, though, is that they fell in love. And as they fell in love and they just had this beautiful and amazing chemistry, the ideas of monogamy about love is really what hurt them, because of the meaning that they give love comes from monogamy. And that's the true to so many people. And we don't even realize it. It's like comes down from outer space and then just absorbs, and we don't even, we have no idea, but it comes from monogamy and it just absorbs our life. And then we try to make that work in our non-monogamous lives. And that certainly became a problem for Frida and her husband, which was a world-renowned artist in Mexico as well. And so part of the thing with love that monogamy teaches is the kind of meaning that we put on love. It makes us feel attached and that we belong to instead of being a part of. And it makes us then commit not only just for the day, but like for the rest of our lives. And I mean, Kat and I have a very deep love, but do we have a commitment for the rest of our lives?
Nope. It's committed for the day. I mean, we could come tomorrow and say, hey, things need to shift. And we know that.
We do. And it's just because we don't attach the future to our relationship today. And that's what monogamy teaches us. And we attach to the present day today. And then, of course, the whole idea that love has to be exclusive and you can't love more than one person. And so, Kat, do you think that because I know a lot of swinger couples that they're really about, making sure that they love just that one person, but it's okay to have sex with other people. Kat, what do you and I really feel about that?
We believe that love is expansive, and we have the ability and the capability to love whoever we choose, whether that's just you and I, whether that's you and someone else, whether that's me and someone else, whether that's us and someone else, or multiple people. We really have the autonomy and the independence to create the kind of relationships that we each desire to have in our lives, as well as what you and I choose to create as that partnership. And so it really is expansive.
And so, yes, and one of the things we find is that is just staying present. Why can't you, and why wouldn't you want to enjoy these lovely, juicy, wonderful, loving relationships and enjoy as much of that as you can? And it's wonderful. Kat and I both have experienced this in our relationship together and in our relationship while we've been together, where we then deeply love other people that come into our lives and new people that come into our life that bring in this new energy and that love, because we don't put these monogamous ideas of attachment and commitment and future on it. Then we can just enjoy it for the day and for whatever it becomes and is without attaching all that meaning to it.
That's right. That's right. And it's a very different mindset to create love and connection without attachment. It's very different than what we're taught in monogamy.
You know, and I know Kat has experienced jealousy seeing me with another woman. And I don't think I've ever experienced jealousy seeing you with another man or woman, but I certainly have felt some jealousy knowing when you were going to be with another man or woman, although I've seen you with men and women. It seems like it's not as scary of a deal seeing you with another man or woman than when you're off alone with another man or woman where I'm not there. That's then where I have experienced a little bit of jealousy, but we look at it, reframe it differently. And this is what we call in this segment here, reframing your thinking, because before you can transform your life, you have to reframe some things. And we want to reframe from your monogamous things that you absorbed into your life into reframing for a non-monogamous life. And that about jealousy then is an opportunity. And so, Kat, what kind of opportunities does jealousy provide?
Well, one of the things that I help people understand is, first of all, what jealousy is in the context of monogamy, so I can understand how to shift it and create that reframe. So the first thing to understand is that in monogamy, jealousy is an act of love. It is a way to demonstrate how much I love you. If you're being hit on by another woman and we're out and about and I don't get jealous, I don't show my displeasure that someone is paying you attention that shouldn't be, then that demonstrates to you, oh, she must not love me so much. She doesn't care that this other woman is trying to take me away from her. So maybe I'll just go over there. Maybe I'll explore that. And that's that framework of monogamy, that jealousy is actually a part of monogamous culture. And it's a very integral part of monogamous culture to demonstrate how much I actually love you. So when we move into non-monogamy, the opportunity is to reframe that, to understand that jealousy is not about how much I love you, but it's an opportunity to turn inward and understand that it's there to tell me I have some insecurities. And what do I need to do in order for me to deal with my own personal insecurities, rather than place it on you and look at you and your behavior or the behavior of someone else towards you and frame it from that point of view. It really is looking at it from two different perspectives.
Jealousy is really the thing that comes along in our lives that gives us an opportunity to look at our own life and our own insecurities and our own issues and grow from them and not put them on someone else.
That's right.
Because why would I want to ever limit and restrict the amount of satisfaction and pleasure that you can have from either loving or having sex or both another individual? Why would I want to limit or restrict you from that?
Right.
Go ahead. And you feel the same way about me. You don't want to limit and restrict me from having satisfaction and pleasure and as much of it as I can get.
Absolutely. And again, that's that reframing of, from monogamy, we have this possessiveness and this ownership of each other, that you're mine and I'm yours, and there's someone else who's trying to take you away from me. It has a very different connotation when you take it from the approach of, well, why wouldn't I want my partner to experience something so pleasurable and wonderful? Why would I want to restrict them because of something that I'm feeling? An insecurity or a doubt that I'm feeling internally within myself. It's a very different way of looking at jealousy. And that is the big part of reframing, is how you actually look at something.
That's correct. And so the things that we reframe then, I mean, this is just very short list. I mean, there's a long list of things that we work with people to help them to reframe. And the reframing is really gathering the information so that they can make new choices. Because like when I was young, I didn't have any information, and I didn't even have any options. I only thought that monogamy was like that was all there was. And so we want to help you to increase the choices and opportunities that you have, and then you just simply take and explore until you can figure out which of the choices and which of the opportunities that are available to you that gives you the greatest amount of satisfaction and pleasure in your life. And so that's really what we do, is just simply help you to expand your choices and your opportunities. And so the short list that we have here that we're dealing with tonight is just to bring out the fact that how we look at love comes from monogamy, jealousy comes from monogamy, possessiveness comes from monogamy, attachments come from monogamy, divorce. I mean, my God, how many people? I mean, I think that divorce would be we'd all be better served as a society at being able to stay present in our lives and be together as a couple, because we just are so in love with each other, and instead of sticking together because we don't want to get divorced. I mean, I'd have to feel like a failure. I've been there. I mean, Kat and I have both been divorced, and you go through a lot of stuff because of the meaning that our society puts on divorce because of monogamy. What if you went to work in your first job after you got out of college, Kat, and all society around you put that same level of meaning on your staying in that job for the rest of the year?
How awful that would be.
Yeah, it would stifle the personal growth and development that people have to begin with.
Absolutely.
And then it would drive them nuts, so they would just want to, like, okay, I know I've got to be here, so I'm just going to stick it out and do the best I can. But then, once I'm off work, then that's when the party begins, and that's why people and respond to the jobs that they have sometimes that way, because they feel stuck. And that's, imagine if we couldn't have divorce. That's how monogamy is. And so divorce should be something that is we talk about there being 50% of all marriages end in divorce. I think it should be maybe 90%, because actually reality, I don't think there's more than 10% of the people out there that go their whole lives where I can really see that is a couple that has just got the amazing relationship and connection, and how they approach the ups and downs and problems. They're just beautiful, a beautiful in love couple, and they go their whole life like that.
Yeah, it's pretty rare.
And so that means there should be a 90% divorce rate, and people should maybe get divorced 3, 4, or 5 times. And it should be no big deal. That's just part of the process of you having the most satisfaction and pleasure and thriving and being your absolute best in your life. Because a bad relationship can really drag you down. And Kat, you know anything about that?
Yeah, I know a little bit about that. I know about having a very toxic relationship to the point where my health was failing. Literally failed me to the point where I had a stroke at the age of 41. So yeah, I know a little bit about very toxic, very unhealthy relationships. And I also know about staying because I was trying to do the right thing for my child. I was trying to stick it out at least until she was 18. And when she was 11, I couldn't stick it out anymore. And it took me 2 years just to get the divorce finalized. So she was 13, and that was 7 years ago. So it's been a
And actually,
long process.
the first time you ever tried to get a divorce, you hadn't even had a child at that point yet.
Well, the very first time I walked out was 2 years into our marriage, 7 years into our relationship.
Yeah, you
And I
weren't.
walked out for a night. I walked out for a night, and I had a lot of thoughts about it, but then it was sweet talked back in. And then from there, it was my daughter was 3. And then from there, she was 7. And then she was 11.
And that was
So,
finally. The truth of the matter is, as well, Kat had moved with her partner, with her husband, and her daughter from beautiful, sunny California to Seattle, Washington. And I think that it was the combination of being stuck in this marriage and being in cloudy, rainy, miserable 9 to 10 months of the year Seattle that she just couldn't deal with it anymore. And so
yeah.
she had to go ahead, and she couldn't run away from Seattle without running away from her marriage. And so, that was kind of like, okay, I'll leave my marriage, and then maybe I can survive here in Seattle, because you had your job and everything.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
We ended up moving back to California, which was been great. And so the last thing is also about how we're taught how to communicate. In communication, you can go out to any place where you see couples that have been together for a while and look around, and then find out and look and see, are they engaging each other and really communicating? I know my wife in my monogamous relationship, we were actually taught by our church not to communicate with each other on very deep issues, but instead to bring those to groups at the church and not communicate between husband and wife. And so I don't,
Wow.
You were never involved with a church, Kat, and so I don't know.
Not like that.
I don't know what communication was like between you and your late ex-husband. But did you find that your communication declined over the years?
Oh, absolutely. When we were young, we talked about a lot of things, but it was actually fairly early on that there were certain subjects and certain things that we talked about that became very unhealthy.
Yeah,
and there was a lot of
your
shame, and there was a lot of judgment. And so I learned very quickly just to avoid certain topics or situations unless I absolutely had to bring it up.
your husband actually wanted to hear about your sexual exploits when he was all energized sexually, but then he would take and hold that against you after when like he's not all charged up sexually, then he would take and just say you're a terrible, terrible person.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And these were things that I had done before I met him. And yet he would get angry and hurt and upset that I had done these things to him or against him when they had nothing to do with him. There was a lot of messed up stuff in his head that he just didn't know how to deal with.
And that impacted your ability to communicate, you and him.
Absolutely, because I was always walking on eggshells. I always was waiting for the other shoe to drop, that if I said the wrong thing or I said something in one context, then he would totally skew it and change the context and then use it against me and hurt me with it. And so there was a lot that I just avoided, and the communication just shut down. And so there were times towards the end of our relationship where we really didn't talk at all.
And so then you got divorced and you end up in a relationship and living together with a man and a woman as a triad. Mm-hmm. And you were having a really wonderful time with that. And then you met me, whereas I was then your third partner. And what was your communication like at the point when you met me?
It was still pretty bad.
No kidding.
It was a struggle. It's still, and you know, it's still a work in progress.
And so, but it's been a good journey for you.
It has been an amazing journey for me.
And you have learned so much and come so far in that journey that I'm just very excited because I'm a communicator, am I not?
No, not at all. You don't have anything to say ever.
But it's not just about saying, it's about listening and providing safe place and safe space for other people. There's a lot more to communicating than talking. I mean, there are people that talk that are terrible communicators.
This is very true. You're very adept on all multiple levels of communication, and you've taught me a lot.
Now, I'm not a perfect communicator, because even as this video shows and goes on, that, you know, I sometimes jump in there and I interrupt a little bit. So I'm not perfect either. So let's go on then, talk about, because we talk about how then we're in our non-monogamous lives, there's a lot of things that we get from monogamy that we need to start reframing. And we've just talked on a few of those things here tonight. But then once you start to reframe it, the next thing is to transform, take that knowledge and that information. Then it's all like in your brain, but then use it to actually transform your life. Now, what does that mean? That means where then your life starts to change. And so now to transform your life, we like to say that you need some structure to make that change happen. And Kat, can you explain that?
So in the concept of structure, there are different aspects of how we literally frame out and create the framework of how we create our container of ethical and consensual non-monogamy. So the analogy that I use is, in monogamy, we're building a one-story house. And so we have a particular type of foundation, we have the walls, we have the roof, and we have this unit, this contained unit that's a one-story house. Now, what a lot of people do is they want to move into ECNM and they want to put a 3-story condo on top of that house. And what I try to explain is that structure that you've created as your one-story house in monogamy is only built to hold and maintain that one-story structure. So you are creating a whole new structure, a whole new framework of how you're going to do relationships, how you're going to communicate, how you're going to manage your internal feelings and emotions, and how your thought processes are going to transpire. When you're moving into you want to create that 3-story condo, you're going to have to do some unraveling. You're going to have to dismantle a lot of that 1-story house. You have to shore up that foundation in order to build that 3-story condo.
Yeah, and that's the reframing process. And then once you've done that reframing process, then you can take and create the structure. And
exactly. You can actually start building.
People, when you listen to other people talk about non-monogamy, they just don't really talk about this stuff like structure. What are you talking about? You know, but that's where we really come to we come at this really from a different perspective, and that's when we don't consider ourselves swingers. We don't consider ourselves polyamorous. I used to consider myself a polyamorous person, but I consider myself now a person having an ethical and consensual non-monogamous life because I have created the structure for that life.
That's right. And there are multiple facets to that life.
That's right. And so we're not going to take any more time going to the structure now, but because we're running short on time. But then after you have structure, you got to have some tension. And tension is what magnetically pulls you in the direction of what you want rather than keeping you where you are at. Because without some tension, then you're just going to stay stuck exactly where you're at.
Yep.
And so that's where we talk about helping you to create your magnetic energy in pulling you to what the life that you truly want. And so there's a vehicle that's needed in order to create the tension in order to pull you towards what you want. Now, that vehicle in many cases then can be sex. It can be, and I'm going to take it and have to pause here real quick and move my computer, it looks like, because I have used up my battery. And so just a moment, hang in here with me. Okay, now thanks for allowing me to get moved, because once that little note comes up on my computer, I know I've got about 1 minute before my computer is shut down on me. And so that little note came up, and so sorry about that. I thought I had plenty of juice before I started. But so anyway, so that tension then, that tension can come from the vehicle can be sex, that you want to have more sex. It can be just the idea you want to live an ethical and consensual non-monogamous life where you're having more sex with more people more often. Or like in my case, the tension that's coming to me right now in order to transform my life is from creating a business. And so we always need this tension in order to pull us to where we want to go. So is there anything you want to chat about that real quick, Kat?
I don't have my rubber band with me, but I usually like to use a rubber band analogy that when you stretch that rubber band, there's one end of that rubber band that is where you want to be and the desires that you have, and the other end is your current reality or where you stand today. And when we hold that tension of where we want to be, then where we are will move in that direction. But what happens is if we don't hold the tension, if we do not utilize tension in the right way, what happens is we end up putting more focus on our current reality, and that diminishes our desires, and they come back and we stay stuck.
You really are amazing, because Kat and I haven't rehearsed any of this, and just for me, just to hear how she explains these things, I'm always just so amazed. She makes things so clear. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so then because we're running long on time, so I'm going to keep trying to move along quicker now here. And so then you got in transforming. You need the structure, you need tension, then you need steps. And so I say you always want one big step as to what you want. And right now, my big step right now is making $20,000 a month through an online income that's sustainable. That's my big step. When I was transitioning my marriage, my big step was to be able to have sex with 3 or 4 women, and instead of just my wife. And so that was my big step. And so then after you have your big step, you want to have you want to know what your 2 next steps are. And so like when I was transitioning, my next step, when I wasn't monogamous, I was still monogamous. My next step then was, to be able to take and work with my wife and get her on board to saying, yes, let's give this a try. And so that was my next step. And then I had steps on how I went and did that. I'm not going to get into that here because that's actually what I do with coaching, and I am going to be doing a training in the future on that, where if you want to really dig into that deeply and have the secret formula and the secret sauce so that you can kind of know what works, then you can always then join the course that I offer later. But and so that's where you need the steps. So, but you need the big step, and then you need 2 steps that are going to be your very next steps. It's like me with my income. My very next step is for me to make $1,000 a month of online income. And after that, then the next step is to make $5,000 a month of online income. And then the big step, make $20,000. Of course, along the way, I have another step in there making $10,000. But you want to be really clear what your big step is and what your next 2 steps are. All the other stuff in the middle, it can easily change along the way. And
That's
so
true.
you don't want to put, I used to get really hung up in all the steps and one, and try to plan everything out. And I know one of the things that Kat and I talked about, 6 years ago, is the fact that we are both planners, and we've grown a long ways, but we 6 years ago, we could plan things to death.
We could. That is so true. And we still can occasionally.
What's that?
We still can occasionally.
Yes. And so that's something we have to be aware of. And that's another thing that we another process that we teach in our coaching is that awareness is the first step to change. And that's so there's other pillars that we teach to go along with that awareness, so that helps you to be able to really bring positive change into your life. And so you need those steps, though. And then after you've been able to transform your life, and that's when you've transformed your life, you're able to get into what we call a state of flow, where you are flowing in the direction of what it is that you want. And so once you start to flow in that direction, then it's just a matter of staying with it. And like for me, I'm right now in flowing in the direction of making my first $1,000 a month consistently online, and then from there 5,000, and then more and more. And so you get into that flow, and then you just keep flowing along. And then that's when, once you get into the flow, that's where you get into a state where you are liberated. And so growth itself needs challenge. And that challenge you'll never be able to take and liberate any part or any aspect of your life if you don't challenge yourself. And that's what the transitioning your life from monogamy to non-monogamy does, or from maybe a non-monogamous life with lots of rules and restrictions and limitations, where that's really not working well for you, and you want to transition more to an ECNM life, that we really focus on helping you to live a life that is free, that's going to give you more satisfaction and pleasure, and let you define that, because every individual should have the opportunity to define that for them. You can't define it for anybody else.
It's very true.
But that's what we're really good. We're really good at trying to define it for everybody else, and not paying attention to what's going on with us then.
And that's part of the monogamous culture, is that we're taught to look outside ourselves. And we look outside ourselves for all of our needs to be met, that we're taken care of by someone else, that we're acknowledged, that we receive approval and love from someone else. But we don't ever do those things for ourselves, with ourselves. And so that's one of the big pieces that we do is we start, my big piece is when I work with people, is your primary relationship is the one with yourself. That's the primary relationship. When we have that relationship, then we take that beautiful person that you are, and we get to share that and connect that person to someone else who's doing the same thing. And there's nothing better than that. That's how you bring out the best in each other, because you already create the best within yourself.
And to live the life that I live today, and to just be where I am. If I had to have gone through and gotten divorced 5 different times, it would be worth it, because it's got to come back to creating the greatest amount of satisfaction and pleasure in your life. Because until you start to focus on that and to do that, where you're living for other people, whether it be your kids, and you went through that, whether it be your husband, you went through that. And so when you're living for other people, and it all starts with kids learning to live for their parents. See, this is what our monogamous culture teaches us. And so we live our lives for the other people instead of yourself. And because of that, then you actually you deny yourself, and you can't really enjoy the satisfaction and pleasure in your life to the level where it brings out inspired times and what I call your internal genius, where you really get into this place, what we call flow state, where you are just loving your life, and you now become very creative, and you are just building your life. And that's then when, what I'm doing, and you and I are both doing right now, Kat, is we are in this state of flow in creating our online income.
That's right.
And it's such a similar process. And every week I come on here, Kat, this is for your first time joining me, and I come on here every week on Monday night between 8 and 8:30 to give you an update and a report. But then the first section is I really want to connect it with you. It's one thing for you to come here and see how I'm doing with my transition, but like in my transition right now is from a income that is a stuck fixed income where I have to be here like to make my money. And just like people go to jobs, where I want to be able to take and be free to travel online, and if I am traveling for a week, I don't have to worry about my income because it's also perpetual and self-sustaining, where it just keeps going. And so that's, where I'm creating that life. And it's the same thing that transforming to non-monogamy. I want you to transform your life so that you're increasing your level of satisfaction and pleasure in a way then that is sustainable, where it's something that you're not constantly on this big roller coaster. Now, there's always going to be, the ups and downs like this, but as long as you continue to go up and down and move uphill and not these big swings. And so that's where we want to help you. And we learn that by right now challenging ourselves in business. And Kat, when you first met me, because I've been self-employed, for over 30 years. And so when you first met me, you really saw that in me as something that you really loved about my life. And so when we moved to California 4 years ago, then we saw that as an opportunity for you to learn a little bit about self-employment.
That's right. That's
and
right.
So but your self-employment, you took your skills, which you're an early childhood education professional, and so you took your skills and your knowledge working with children, and then you started working with some families that were millionaires and here in the local area that then wanted your skills because they were having children that they wanted to basically have a nanny service, and they really liked your credentials and your qualifications. And so they hired you. But that also then that requires you, even though you're self-employed, but that's really like having a job though.
It is having a job. And so yes, it's that in between. It's part of my transition. It's part of those next steps, right? So I had to move from being employed with a job where someone else paid me, and I was working in a company, to now I got to choose my clients and earn money on my own, but it's still in the form of a job. I still am trading my time for dollars on a one-on-one basis. And so that's part of this transition, but at least I'm working for myself. I get to set the people that I work with. We're very flexible in what days I work, how it works out for them, how it works out for me. And we've maintained that level of flexibility, which works for both of us. And it does take me into a different realm rather than working a 40-hour-a-week job for someone else. But that's just the next step. And so from here, it's building the coaching, the online business, the things that we've been talking about so that we have sustainable income, both passive and active income, but that we get to impact more people. So even though we have active income, we get to impact hundreds of people or thousands of people at a time so that we still get to create the life that we choose to create. And we're still giving of service to many thousands of people.
And our first step in doing that is to build some online stores. We're going to build 7 of them that are focused on very specific niche markets. For instance, the first one is on nudist. Then we're going to build one that's going to be for swingers. We're going to build one that's going to be for people who are polyamorous, people who have open relationships. So we're going to build a number of theme stores, and that'll draw that audience to us that we then can not only, make a little bit of money with the things that they buy on our stores, but then it also allows us to have their email addresses and be able to take and continue to tell them about our other programs that we offer. And so before I go on and wrap up the video tonight and give my weekly report on my progress I made in the last week on my stores and so forth, I want to go ahead then and talk about then and give you a chance to talk about what we are doing, what you're doing. I'm helping doing the marketing, but what you're doing with the course that you're doing. And so go ahead and Kat, and because what Kat is doing is she's helping people to reframe, transform, and liberate their communication with a really revolutionary course. So go ahead and briefly talk about that.
Sure. So the course is called The 5 Steps to Better ECNM Communication, Transforming Uncomfortable Conversations into Empowered Communication. It's an 8-week live interactive course that's all on Zoom. And in that 8 weeks, we will be doing both the reframing work as well as transformative work, where we really look at, there's a key aspect that most people do not address when they're looking at their communication.
And
we generally tend to look.
That's an aspect that was actually an aspect that you discovered, which I am so excited about, because it really is. Once you discovered it, I said, "Oh my God, you're right," and it's revolutionary, and people are going to be blown away by it.
Absolutely, it is the one secret that no one else is talking about. Everybody talks about building your skills. You have to learn how to listen. You have to use I statements, and there's patterns of how you interact. There's all these programs around nonviolent communication. And all of this is great. It's great information. It's great to build your skills. But the one thing that I'm going to be sharing is the root cause and the root issue that prevents you from actually implementing all of those skills in the most effective way. It's the one thing that no one else is talking about. Should I reveal what it is, or should I let them come to check it out?
You'll have to come check it out in the course.
Come check it out. So check it out, because it truly is revolutionary. We have 8 weeks together. We will be doing reframing. We will be doing some very specific change work processes that are all based on neuroscience. They are absolutely amazing, wonderful, revolutionary. You will never see a communications course like this anywhere. So come check it out. We'll leave a link for you.
What if they have to miss a week or two, or even if the time and date that you set the course up doesn't work for them because of other obligations?
Not a problem. Not a problem. Even though we're doing it live, it's all being recorded. And there's a platform that we use where probably within 48 hours, I will have all of the video information up on the website, and you'll be able to go and check it out, even if it's not within your time frame. So don't let that hold you back from purchasing the course. If you can't make it live, you will get all the information, all the worksheets, everything in. We're using a platform called Teachable. It's a fabulous platform, and all the information will be there for you.
And on that platform, we have created Non-Monogamous Relationships Academy, and this is our first course in our academy.
It is. I'm very excited, very excited. And we also offer our coaching program through that as well. So
that's right. Okay, well, then I'm going to move on from there and get into the wrap up for the week. And so I'm going to just kind of blow through this really quickly because, I just am really doing this to be accountable to the people that are here in my audience. And just like, that our coaching, when we're coaching people in transitioning their life from monogamy to non-monogamy, or from non-monogamy to an ECNM life, then there are steps along the way that working with a coach is really helpful to be able to every week communicate these points and then hold yourself accountable and knowing that nobody's going to get everything perfect all the time. And so we have lots of room for people to fail.
Yes, because failure is just information. And without failure, you won't have success.
And so I'm going to go ahead and talk about then my overriding desire. As I mentioned, right now, my overriding desire is to get to my first $5,000 where it's sustainable month after month. It's passive. And so it means that basically, again, that I don't have to be there every single day, or if I miss a whole week or 2 or 3 weeks, then that income is going to continue to flow and it's not going to be interrupted. And so that's my overriding desire. And then my second overriding desire is to create the online Non-Monogamous Relationships Academy, in which we just told you that we are moving forward on that as well. I'm very excited about that. And so then in my weekly report, last week's focus.
I'm going to say goodbye. That's okay.
That'd be great. You can say goodbye.
Cheers,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.
And then so last week's focus, I had 2 focuses. One was to build my online store, the homenudist.com, and I give myself a pass. You can go there now. I'm far from being done. I've got a lot of work yet to do, but you can go there now, and I've got nearly 500 products loaded in there right now, and you can kind of take a look. Now we're going to be adding a lot more categories as well than what's there, but it's all focused then on the Home Nudist. And so you can go there and just kind of check it out if you want, the homenudist.com. So I'm very excited. And of course, then one of the exciting things about this whole store is that once I get it all completely finished, then I start to do the marketing and what we call driving traffic to the store. And then once we get that all set up, that all starts to happen automatically. And then that's where that becomes a passive income, where it's just going to bring the money in week after week, month after month. Yes, there are going to be fluctuations. I may have a week that's $500 week, another week that's a $2,000 week, another week that's $100 week. But on an average overall, I want that store to bring in a minimum of $1,000 each and every month. And like I said, I'm going to then create 7 stores. And after I create 7 stores, all making a minimum of $1,000 a month, then I'm going to turn that all over to an assistant in the Philippines and let them take it from there so that it's completely passive. They'll be able to do everything and that needs to be done on the stores. And I don't have to mess with any of the products or, any of the collecting the money. The website does all of that and then sends it off to the companies that do the order fulfillment for me. And they handle the returns and the warranties and customer service and all that kind of stuff. And so that's where it creates this passive income that's ongoing. And so I give myself a pass on that because I did a great job last week at moving that forward. But far from done, so we're going to keep working on that. The second thing is week 5 of 12 of my magnetic mindset certification training. And so I'm going to give myself a pass on that. And so 2 items that I was working on last week, and I give a pass on both of those. But in a moment, I'm going to go into telling you a little more about creating some detail in your own life. But let me keep moving here. Accomplished last week, where the store is operative. I learned a new ads creation software for creating ads for our store, so that's across 8 platforms. In other words, a platform be YouTube, one platform. Facebook is a platform. LinkedIn is a platform. My mind's just drawing a blank right now, but Facebook is a platform. Instagram is a platform. So there's 8 different platforms that I'll be able to take and create ads for and market so that it drives traffic to my stores. And then so I learned how the software works to make that happen. And then I created 5 ads that we're going to start running this week. And so our first 5 Facebook ads, now not for the store, because the store's not where I want to start advertising it yet, but we created 5 ads for Kat's Steps to a Better ECNM Communications course. And so that's going to be a lot of fun to get those 5 ads, because what Facebook will do, they have a program where you stack all 5 of those ads in, and then it's all directed at a non-monogamous audience, and then they trickle those ads out, and they find out really quickly, within a day or 2 days maximum, and I'll spend $5 a day. So within $10 of ad spend, I will know exactly which ones are working out of the 5 ads that I created and which ones are not working. And so then those ads that are working, then it's just a matter of keep spending the money and even increasing it if we want to spend $50 a day. If you're taking and spending $5 a day, but out of every $5, that's bringing you back, say, 1 subscriber or 1 person that takes our course, which then brings 1 customer. Even if we go 2 or 3 days to get 1 customer, then, well, instead of spending $5 a day, if we spend $25 a day, that's just going to bring us that much more revenue. But you have to be able to first have the proven ad that's going to really make an impact with people, and get people to click and then sign up for the course. And so those ads are very important. And so we get a chance to test out 5 different ads that I created last week, and we're going to do that then this week. And so then another accomplishment last week was that I responded to people who are interested in buying my bus. I've got now over 20 people, because I've got my bus is 35-foot Greyhound bus that's converted into a motorhome, and I've got it up for sale. It's in Seattle, and I've got over 20 people now interested in that. And I'm basically creating a situation where they're all going to be bidding against each other for the bus. I've got it priced to sell at a particular price, but they all know that the bidding price will take it much higher than that. Just like when you list a house. If you're in a hot market, real estate market, and go to sell it, you may list your house for 1 price, and then you got a bunch of buyers that are interested in buying your house, then they bid against each other and it bids the price up. I'm using that same technology in selling my bus. And so I responded to people last week, responded to 3 people today on that. And so then I sourced on my bus, it needs a new door, and a little accident that happened with the door last year. And so it needs a new door. And this is a 1958. It's a classic. It's a 1958 Greyhound bus known as a GM 4104. And so look it up on the internet if you want, a GM 4104. They're classics. And in fact, after this is all done, I'll even take down in the description down there, there's a link to Kat's her course on the 5 steps of communication. And give me about 15, 20 minutes after I'm done with the video. And I'll go ahead and put the link in for the ad for my bus. So if anybody wants to just take a look just out of curiosity, then you're welcome to do that as well. And so I'll put the link, because I've listed it on Craigslist in Seattle. And so then, so the door needs to be replaced. And so I found a source here in California for the door. And I'm driving back to Seattle next week, and I'm going to stop and pick up the door, and he's going to take it off of an old 4104. He has a graveyard or a wrecking yard, for old buses and stuff. And so we're going to just pull it off that bus, and then put it on my bus. And so it's going to be an identical door to what's there now. And so I'm really excited. Just not going to have the damage that I end up having to mess with last year. So I found a source this week then for that, or last week I did. I had a play date with my slut in training and had a great time with that. Also, I cheated 5 times. And that's a process that I do instead of using a chiropractor. Have this machine called it's a medical device called a chi machine, and it keeps my back all in alignment and stuff, and helps me to deal with some ongoing pain. And so those were the things that were accomplishments for last week. Breakdowns and breakthroughs, no breakdowns, but some breakthroughs. The fact that Rome was not built in a day. Persistence and consistency pays off. When you allow your failures, and allow for your failures, because once you have a failure, just pick yourself back up and keep allowing your desire to pull you to your new life. If you've been following me for a while, you know that, about a month ago, I had to totally change plans after 4 months of working on one plan that I was working with a guy. It turned out that it wasn't a good plan. But sometimes, those things happen. And so you just take and fall down, pick yourself back up and move on. And that's where persistence and consistency pays off. And so my focus for this week, now what I'm going to start to do this week, because I want to model this as to what you can do for yourself as well. And to start out with, then my focus for my work and health. And I'm just going to go through, my work and wealth. Because that's right now, the area of my life that I need the greatest amount of focus on. And so that's why it's at top. For you, maybe something else. And so it'd be at the top then for whatever it is, the area that you're going to have. But all the different categories, you'll see them here. And so work and wealth is one category. And what I'm going to be doing this next week. Now, I've got a very full week. I don't know if I'm not going to be able to give myself a pass. I doubt on all this. But nonetheless, but it's creating that tension. That structure and that tension. The structure are these bullet points, and then the tension is having so many of those that I've got to really get on it and stay on it in order to get it all done, or as much as possible done. So the first thing is to continue building my online store at thehomenudist.com. Second thing is to begin running and testing the 5 Facebook ads that we're targeting ethically and consensually non-monogamous people for Kat's communications course. And then I want to create 5 new Facebook ads for the communications course that are going to be targeted on people getting divorced. Because our experience is that people, when they get divorced, a great deal of them go into this transition period, and they're very easy to help them to transition their life from monogamy into non-monogamy, particularly if they've had sexual misery in their relationship and they're ready to explore and have their life blossom, increasing their satisfaction and pleasure in life sexually. And we want to make sure that we're able to help them to do that. And so we want to reach out to divorced people, or people who are starting to think about divorce. So then another thing here is I'm going to do my week 6 out of 12 of my magnetic mind certification training. It's a 12-week program I'm in right now, and week 6 is this week. Reviewing weeks 1 through 3 of my magnetic mindset certification training. I'm going to do that this week, because then I have a practice session that I'm setting up with a gal in Australia for either Thursday night or Thursday night or sometime on Saturday afternoon. Like when it's Thursday at 4 o'clock here, it's 9 a.m. on Friday morning in Australia. And so I'm setting up a practice session with her, and she's going through the same program, the same 12 weeks that I am. And we're going to do some practicing together of the processes that we are learning. And that's an important part of what we do in our program. And so then I want to get 1 video edited this week. I probably have about 20 videos that I've made in the last 6 months that I just have not got them edited and uploaded to my YouTube site. And so I put down as a goal then this week to edit 1 video and then get it posted to my YouTube site. I want to do 1 live YouTube briefing. My briefings are videos that I make that are 4 minutes long or shorter. and they're usually on a particular subject. I do them live, and I love doing the briefings, and I just haven't been doing them for a long time because I've been having so much to focus on and do, and yet I really do enjoy doing them. And so I'm going to have a goal this week and try to do a briefing. See, that 4-minute briefing, it takes me to set it up, to make my notes, to get through material, and then the 4-minute briefing usually is about 6 minutes because I let some time go, or maybe even 5 minutes before we get into the briefing. I let some people get onto the live video, and then I end up having to edit it all. So that 4-minute, what ends up sitting on my YouTube channel is a 4-minute or less video that actually takes me about an hour to do that. So then another thing is that I have over the years, I've got all these different software programs that I've purchased for digital marketing, like the software program that I learned last week and did in order to take and do create the advertisements that I created last week, and even the software program that I'm doing to create my store, thehomenudist.com. I have probably 150 programs that I have bought over the last 8 years. And I've lost track of most of them. And so I want to start to catalog them. And that way I can prioritize them. So the ones I learn, and prioritize them with the people that I hire, will be hiring in the future, so that I can have them learning these software programs. And they'll all help to generate that online income. Eventually get to the $20,000 and then even more beyond that per month. So then index of 5 videos on my YouTube channel. I'm going through each video on my YouTube channel that I've ever made, and there's over 100 of them, or 150, or I don't know how many of them, but there's a bunch of them there. I'm going through and I'm indexing them, and so that I can do some pretty cool stuff with those videos. And so I'm wanting to this week index 5 of those videos. And so then I want to complete doing the things that I need to drive to Seattle. I'm going to be driving to Seattle probably the end of this week or next week, probably more like Sunday or Monday or Tuesday of next week. And I'm going to be driving to Seattle. And so there's a lot I need to get done before I actually leave. I need to get some bookkeeping done. I need to square away a bank account that we've recently opened. So there's online access. My debit card works, some things like that. I need to move some expense accounting and tracking over to that account, where things have been coming through my personal account. And so for income taxes and bookkeeping purposes, I need to get those expenses that I've had all this year moved over to that account, and so that they can be all tax deductible. And then I need to get those expenses transferred. Some expenses from just my ongoing business expenses are over $1,000 a month. And the things that, every month, these people I'm paying for the things for. And so those expenses need to be transferred over to this new account. Budgeting for my trip to Seattle. So I've got to make sure that I've got money to be able to get me enough gas to get to Seattle and buy the door for the bus on the way, and whatever I need to do to strap that to the top or in the trunk. It's whatever I need to do to figure out how to get it to Seattle. I need to then have the money to do all that. My car needs new brakes before I can even leave for Seattle. And so those are the things that I'm working on completing this week. And those are all then what I'm doing for my work and my wealth. But I'm also doing some things for my sex and relationships. And so maybe this will be your top category, but for me, that's my second category. First thing is to have a play date with a threesome this week with my best friend. He's a male, and he and I and Kat all get together once or twice a month. And before I head to Seattle, so I'll be in Seattle for 2 months, that I want to have a play date. So we've set that up, and so we're going to have a play date with him, and that'll be a lot of fun. But then also, I'd love to have a play date with a bi male and bi female couple, and so we've never had a play date like that before. And but we've met a couple that live about 40 minutes from our home here in Ventura. We can go to their home and play. They can come here and play. But before we just get together and play, we really need to take, because we may not play, we need to find out from them what their level of safety is for COVID-19. And so that's our first conversation. We're going to have a video call on the computers and talk about that, so that we know and can assess the risk that they pose to us, and they can assess the risk that we pose to them for COVID-19 safety, and because we are very cautious about that. And then if we pass that, then because we like to have sex with our friends bareback. And so, but we're very particular because we're conscious about our health, and we're very picky. We turn over 90% of the people down for one reason or another, where we could be having lots more sex with a lot more people, but we're very particular. And one of the reasons we prefer bareback sex, and so that requires a couple that we can really key into and trust enough to do that with. And so anyway, that's what I'm working on then this week for my sex and relationships. Don't know if we'll have a foursome or not, but it would be wonderful if we do. And the couple knows that if we do, then things all go well. First with the COVID-19 safety, then with the bareback sex safety, and then we get together and I'll have a great time together. Then while I'm gone in Seattle for 2 months, then they can continue to play either female to female because Kat's bi and she's bi, and they can have play dates themselves, or they can have threesomes with her husband and then the two ladies and have good times. And so that's my focus this week for sex and relationships. Then I also have focus on my health and wellness. And so for that, I want to go on a bicycle ride this week. Spend a couple hours out riding my bicycle and having a wonderful time. I want to chi 5 times this week, and I want to meditate every single day. And I want to go on 3 walks. I went on a walk today, so I need 2 more this week. I want to take an allergy cocktail every day. These are a combination of 3 essential oils that have wiped out my need for prescription medications. But I've also learned that if you have itchy ears, that's because of allergies. And I've been having itchy ears. And so I'm starting to take then the allergy cocktail once every day. And then that'll clear up that allergy issue and just using the essential oils. And then I want to do 2 recodes this week. This is the recode is a process that I'm learning for the magnetic mindset and the coaching program that we're in. But I was first drawn to this process, this recoding, because it is rewiring your brain. It's some new cutting edge processes. It's absolutely amazing, and rewiring your brain. And so I'm wanting to do 2 recodes this week. And so those are the things. Now, I got a little more of a detailed list because I wanted to show you the kinds of steps and this whole idea of reframing, transforming, and then liberating your life. And you want to be able to take and do the same things. So because you want to have one area that's your primary area that you're really focused on and working on right now. And whether that be your work and wealth, or your sex and relationships, or your health and wellness, whatever one of those that it is. But you put that at the top, and then the middle one would be the one that you're working on secondarily. And then lastly, the one you're working on. And so go ahead and follow that along for yourself. And then we'll catch you next week. But like I said, then in about 15 minutes, I'll have that link down there in the description for my bus, the ad on it. So if you want to kind of check that out, you'll be able to do that, and I'll have that in 15 minutes. But if otherwise, I'm going to wrap this up. So if you like the video this week, give it a like. If you have not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe, and also comment in the comment section if you have any comments to make. But I see there's somebody here has joined us. So if you have any questions, I'm going to just pause here before saying goodbye. And let me know in the chat if you have any questions at all, and I'll be happy to answer any question you have. So just go ahead and put that in the chat. And if nothing else, you can put in there, just let me know what city and state that you're coming to me from, so I know where our visitors are coming at. I also like to know if you're living a monogamous life or a non-monogamous life. And if you're living a non-monogamous life, because I have a lot of people that are out there cheating, but they follow me. I have a guy that I'm coaching right now that he started following me first about 2 years ago. and he follows me on YouTube. He follows me through my email, and he finally connected, so that he said, yeah, I really need some help with this. And he is also a guy that goes to church, and his wife goes to church, and his wife just thinks that his need for sex is of the devil, and which is where I came from. So he and I relate in a lot of places, a lot of ways, and he wants to live more of a life that is not like exactly like what I live, but he wants to live an ethically and consensually non-monogamous life, and where he can have more sex with more people more often. And he's now gotten where he's talked to his wife about it, but he can't even talk to her about it because she just kind of says, well, you're just being pulled in and drawn in by the devil. Well, I've been through all of that, and I know what that's like, and I can help him. And so I'm helping him with that now. And so if you want to know more about our coaching, then there's my email address down there in the description, and happy to go ahead and have you email me, and be happy to talk to you about coaching programs as well. Kat and I both are certified and trained coaches, and we both do coaching. Our one-on-one is I think the most expensive coaching, but our group coaching is super affordable because it's done in a group, and with our group coaching, then I think it's actually better, because not only are we coaching you and every week interacting and chatting with you, we're interacting and chatting with other people in the program as well. And so that something that you may have not really thought about, or you thought about it, but you just didn't want to ask about it, then somebody else, we're chatting with them about it, so that you get the power of the group in a group coaching program. And I think that actually group coaching is the most powerful way to coach. But for those who can afford the one-on-one coaching, sometimes that's what they want. It's a lot more discreet and private, and that's what they want. And if you can afford the one-on-one coaching, great. We have very few spots available for that, but Kat and I do right now have a few spots, like 2 spots open on our one-on-one coaching. And because we only do 5 one-on-one coaching sessions a week, that's all we have time for. And so 5 is the most people that we'll take on. Kat's got a couple coaching people that she's doing coaching with. I've got a couple coaching people. And so I really, in fact, Kat will do 5 people a week. I really will only do about 4 a week, and I just don't have time for more than that, and maybe even 3. So that means that I only have 1 and maybe 2 open slots for one-on-one coaching. And it takes a lot of time. In the same 1 hour, I can coach one person through the group program and through what I do with YouTube and things like that. I can actually, for that same hour, I can end up talking to hundreds of people. And so that's where we really want to have a much bigger impact on the world with a lot of people, and not just 1 or 2 people. My coach, the person that I pay, pay nearly about $1,000 a month for his coaching, and his coaching. Then he has, and that's his group coaching, by the way. It's not one-on-one. That's his group coaching. But he has now, I think, over 1,000 people that are paying him for his group coaching, because it's absolutely phenomenal and amazing and well worth it when you get to the level where you can afford that, and it's helpful and of use to you. And so I look at these professional athletes, and the fact that they have coaches, and not just one, but they have multiple coaches. But without coaching in their life, they can never have the peak performance and the level of performance that they do as a professional athlete. And they just couldn't get there without a coach. And that's how coaching is in our personal lives as well. We just really can't get to our peak, having the best life that we can have, where, particularly in non-monogamy, where you can have more sex with more people more often, without coaching sometimes. And so thanks a lot for allowing me to now go way over time. And so thank you, though, very much for allowing that. And we'll be back here next week. Until then, goodbye.